Welcome in to the Blind Tasting Podcast, your number one attitudinal bourbon destination. I'm John Stark, and I'll be bringing you candid and sometimes irreverent whiskey news, opinions, and reviews on the industry and the products they've been bringing us for hundreds of years. Okay, whiskey freaks, the big trend this summer, they're saying it's non-alcoholic whiskey. Yeah, I can't make this stuff up. Apparently, somebody looked at the history of bourbon in America and said, you know what this needs? Less fun. So today we're going to dive deep into the rich complexities of this bold new idea in sadness. We'll swirl it around in the glass, we'll sniff it, we'll pretend it has a finish longer than a PBS pledge drive, and maybe, just maybe, we'll throw in a little Mr. Rogers' Land of make-believe magic while we're at it. But yeah, no, we will not be doing that. Kids, I'm drinking real whiskey with alcohol like a grown-up. So let's get after it. And I got big news this week, so we're going to sprint right out the gate. No tomfoolery or foolishness, no more horseplay today, just grown-ass bourbon talk like God and Booker No intended. And speaking of Booker No, Jim Beam's got another new release they're out with. Jefferson's got a new release. Jesus, everybody's got a new release. Old Forester has a new release. Starlight Distillery's got a new release. Still Austin. I'm going to talk about all these today. And we're going to talk about the pours that haunt us. What could that be? Maybe regret. Look, I promise you're going to want to hear what I have to say on this. And finally, I review Larceny Barrel Proof C924. And before you get your panties in a wad, there's a reason for it. I always have a reason. There's always a method to my madness. Just wait and see. So here's the deal. Jim Beam's got a new release. And if you said it was the newest iteration of Booker's, then ding, 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 you're a winner. Booker's has just dropped a new limited edition batch, and it's called By the Pond. It's inspired by Fred Noah's memories of sitting by a backyard pond with his father, the aforementioned Booker No. He was the grandson of Jim Beam, and Fred, now the 7th generation master distiller. He says the bourbon's rich color reminded him of Kentucky Derby horses, and the smell carries notes of vanilla and oak. And like all Booker's releases, it's unfiltered, it's barrel proof, and it's bold. So the batch is a strong one. It comes in at 126.5 proof. It's aged for 7 years, 1 month and 20 days to be precise. And it's made from barrels pulled from 8 different warehouses. I'm not going to go into all of that. And they say despite the high proof, Fred actually says there's a touch of sweetness to balance the heat. And good news for everybody, that's another reason I love Jim Beam and what they do there. This bottle, the new Booker's By the Pond, is going to retail for $100. And that to me is amazing. Now, Booker's only releases a few batches each year, and each one is unique in age and strength. They're similar, to be fair, but they are unique. Their motto is it's ready when it's ready. And that same patient approach was used when building that backyard pond, is what they're saying. Slow progress, but eventually something special. Fred, this is according to Jim Beam, Fred hopes you enjoy this batch in a place that brings you peace, just like that pond did for his family. Now, like I mentioned, the good folks at Jefferson's, they also have something special for us whiskey freaks. Jefferson's Bourbons announced the second release in its Marion McLean series. And it's a blend named after founder Trey Zeller's 8th generation grandmother. Marion McLean was arrested in 1799. Nothing funny about being arrested, but it's just kind of funny. She was arrested in 1799 for illegally producing and distributing whiskey after her husband died in the Revolutionary War. And according to the brand, she is one of the earliest documented women to be involved in American whiskey making, which basically makes her the OG bad biatch of bourbon. Now, the new Marion McLean offering is a blend of 5 straight bourbons. I'm going to run through these. It's not 8 like Booker's. 62% of it's going to be a 13-year-old Kentucky bourbon, so this is a very aged whiskey. 15% is an 11-year-old Indiana wheated bourbon, double-barreled in new oak. 11% is Kentucky bourbon finished in rye barrels and wine casks. A lot of things going on here. 6% is going to be Kentucky bourbon finished in rum-seasoned rye barrels. This is like one ginormous infinity bottle. And finally, 6% is 9-year-old Kentucky bourbon. It's going to be bottled at 106 proof, which sounds nice. It's going to be available at select retailers and online. Now, Jefferson's founder, Trey Zeller, said the whiskey reflects Marion McLean's determination and entrepreneurial drive. He says that the release is meant to represent her role in early American whiskey history. Their master blender at Jefferson's led the development of the blend, and she said that each component was chosen for its flavor and complexity. Well, duh. She also noted the importance of recognizing women in whiskey, both past and present. Well, why not? Marion McLean was first released by Jefferson's in 2023, and this new batch differs in age, barrel finish, and whiskey sources. But both releases are part of Jefferson's ongoing experiments with blending and the different aging techniques that they're doing. Now, fun fact, Jefferson's is part of North American Distillers, a Pernod Ricard company. And they're part of a family of companies, which includes Rabbit Hole out of Louisville, Screwball, and Smooth Ambler. I also mentioned at the top of the show, Old Forester has a new expression. It's Old Forester 1910 Extra, Extra Old. That way you know it's really old. Now, Old Forester has announced the return of 1910 Extra Extra Old, a limited edition release in the 117 series. This bourbon is a double-barreled version of Old Forester 1910 Old Fine Whiskey, but with an extra 24 months of aging in a heavily charred second oak barrel. That sounds really great. Now, this was first released in 2021. It was part of an aging experiment, and according to the assistant master distiller, Caleb Trigo, at Old Forester, the added time in the second barrel creates a bolder and more complex flavor. That makes total sense. And for you history buffs, the name 1910, that refers to an event in Old Forester history. On October 22nd, 1910, a fire at the distillery on 117 Main Street damaged a batch of bourbon that was ready to be bottled. And to save it, the bourbon was just rebarreled in new charred oak barrels, which led to the creation of the original 1910 expression. Kind of fun to learn that. Now, the 2025 release of 1910 Extra Extra Old is bottled at 93 proof, and it's priced at a reasonable $64.99. They say it'll be available in limited quantities starting July 16th, so that would be just a few days back, at the distillery there in Louisville at Old Forester, select Kentucky retailers, and online at shop.oldforester.com, yada, yada, yada. The tasting notes include aromas of sticky toffee pudding? Okay. And toasted hazelnut, flavors of sweet almond, toasted oak, and baking spice, and a finish of milk chocolate, cinnamon, and sweet oak. More details, you can find those at oldforester.com, but pretty much I gave you all the details, right? Starlight Distillery, they're one of my favorites. Starlight has now released their first 10-year-old bourbon. Now, we know they're out in Indiana, and this is their first 10-year bourbon. It's going to be released on July 26th, so that'll be around the time this episode drops. And they say this limited release marks a decade of aging and highlights the Huber family's long history of farming and whiskey making. The bourbon is made using a large portion of estate-grown grain from Huber's orchard and winery, which has been family-run for over 180 years. That's really cool. The grain is milled, sweet mash fermented, and double pot stilled on site using a 500-gallon copper still. I've seen that still. This farm-to-glass process is handled entirely at the Huber estate. And my lord, it is an estate. It's massive. And a quick note about that still. Because when we visited them, I guess it was about 2 years ago now, get this, they let me actually get a sip straight off the sill. Off the sill and the still. And I could hardly believe when the dude handed me the glass, he had just poured it off the still. So naturally I took a sip. It was pretty wild. And if you ever get out to Indiana, just outside of Louisville, you got to swing by this place. It's a massive farm. They've got orchards, all the things. They've got a winery, a distillery. They have a restaurant, all kinds of neat stuff out there. Think the most largest like vegetable farm and orchard you can think of. That's what these guys have out there. Okay, back to whiskey. Sorry, kids. The whiskey was aged for 10 full years in Seguin, Moreau, Icon barrels. That means fancy in French. Fancy barrels from Napa Valley. It matured in Warehouse 2, meaning nothing to me. On the west side, the warmest part of the distillery is rickhouses, which helped intensify the flavors over time. Okay, so time for a learning, and don't tune out, guys. I want to talk barrels for a second, because Starlight didn't just age their 10-year bourbon in any old oak. They used these Seguin, Moreau, Icone barrels, and I know it sounds fancy, right? And well, that's because it is. It's actually a high-end French cooperage, meaning that it's in France. And basically, they make barrels, but not the kind like your cousin built in woodshop class in high school. These guys have been making elite barrels for centuries, and mostly for Napa Valley winemakers and fancy French vineyards. Think of them as kind of like the Louis Vuitton of barrel makers. Now, the Icone or Icone line, I don't speak French, that's one of their premium barrel types, and it's designed to pull out deep, complex flavors during the aging process. Things like toasted spice, soft vanilla, caramel, rich oak, the kind of stuff that makes you say, awesome, right? After you take just one sip. So when Starlight says their 10-year bourbon spent its life soaking in one of these barrels, what they're really saying is, we went all out on this. So this isn't just about aging either. It's about transforming the whiskey. They say it's got a richer mouthfeel, deeper character, and flavors that actually hang with you. That's what these special, fancy barrels do. So the next time you hear Seguin, Moreau, Icone, just know it ain't just a barrel. It's flavor engineering, really is. Each of these special barrels was hand-picked by the Huber family and bottled at peak maturity. The tasting notes include dark caramel, charred oak, ripe fruit, and baking spice with a deep, complex finish. I have no doubt this is some of the most fantastic whiskey you can get your hands on right now. I've had some of their whiskeys, fantastic stuff. Their rye is off the chain. Now, I'm quoting Chris Huber. This isn't just another bourbon, it's a reflection of our family's legacy, said Christian Huber, the 7th generation distiller at Starlight. Now, the 10-year bourbon will be available at the Starlight Distillery there in Borden, Indiana, starting on July 26th. They're going to have a big public event that day where visitors can actually meet the distillers and taste the release. So if you're anywhere near there, I would definitely go grab some. I don't have any details on the price, unfortunately. So my guess is this is going to be an $80, $90, $100 bottle, but I'm not sure. Now, I also mentioned Still Austin, and we've talked about Still Austin on several episodes. I reviewed about I think it was their bottled in bond from last season. Well, they've just released their oldest bottled in bond bourbon yet. Now, we know they're from Texas, Austin, Texas. Still Austin, yeah. And like I said, they just released their oldest bottled in bond bourbon to date. Now, this new expression is made with a unique mash bill that includes Jimmy Red Corn, not the NASCAR driver. It does sound like a NASCAR driver, though. And Jimmy Red Corn wins the 2025 Daytona 500. Yeah, no, it's not that. It's not a NASCAR driver. It's actually a heritage grain known for its bold flavor. But it could be a NASCAR driver. Now, the bourbon's mash bill is 36% Jimmy Red Corn, 34% white corn, 25% rye, and 5% malted barley just for fun. It's the third seasonal release in Still Austin's Bottled in Bond series, which began in 2023. I reviewed 2024's not that long ago. This new release is older than both the 2020, And the extra aging has added more depth to the flavor. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, right? They say tasting notes include aromas of hazelnut, cashew, and strawberry soda, with flavors like peanut brittle, pecan, red velvet cake, maple, and black pepper. Sounds like it's got a lot going on there, and I'm not surprised. If I remember that their whiskey has some really deep flavors there. So they say the bourbon offers a mix of sweet and savory notes and works well for sipping in cocktails like an old-fashioned. Oh, fun fact, Still Austin actually distills and bottles everything in-house, and they continue to focus on their small batch, kind of locally crafted whiskey. That's kind of their shtick down there. All right. I told you didn't want to miss this segment. And this segment, I've named this The Pours That Haunt Us. It's kind of like whiskey regret. And you're like, what the hell? What are you talking about? Well, I posted this question. I posed the question on Facebook and Instagram. You should go there, Blind Tasting Podcast, on both Facebook and Instagram. You've heard of it, right? Okay. So I asked y'all, I said, what is the worst whiskey you've ever had? What's the worst whiskey you've ever drank? Okay. I got inundated. I got over 400 comments on the Facebook post alone. And so what I did was I aggregated the results. And for those of you with infinity bottles, that means I combined them. So I aggregated the results, and I'm going to run through them with y'all today. These are priceless, and quite frankly, I nearly spit my whiskey out through my nose when I was reading these. So pro tip, put down your whiskey if you're drinking it right now. Now, like I said, I asked the simple question, what's the worst whiskey you've ever tasted? And what came back wasn't just a list. It was a full-blown like emotional meltdown from you guys. It was like a therapy session hosted by Evan Williams. Look, it was like I wasn't reading replies. I was hearing confessions from you guys. I felt like a priest, a bartender, and a trauma sponge all at once. So let's get into it. Okay, so first, I want to talk about the repeat offenders. 400 comments you guys made about the worst whiskey you've ever had. And these names popped up so many times. I think we owe them some kind of participation trophy or like a public warning label or maybe like a commission or something. And some of these I don't agree with, but look, this is what you guys told me. Jack Daniels. You didn't hold back, guys. Jack Daniels showed up more than anyone else on this list. Now, Old Number 7, it might be the best-selling whiskey in the world, but in this thread, for you guys, it was the punchline. You said it was harsh, overrated, gross, and you said, quote, tastes like sin and sugar water. I'm not making this shit up. The next one was Old Crow. You guys called it a living legend of regret, and one of you said it tasted like a broken promise. Another said it was better suited for cleaning fuel injectors. I kid you not. The next one was, and I don't agree with this one personally, Evan Williams, specifically the green label. Okay, maybe we could say that. But really, kind of all of it. Apparently nobody likes Evan. Like nobody. Mellow Corn. And this one kind of split the room. Some called it undrinkable corn juice. Others called it a rite of passage. One guy just said it's not whiskey, it's a warning. Okay? Now, not only did we have repeat offenders, we had, based on geography, we had some big disasters here. And you folks had opinions on like entire nations, most notably Canada. Sorry, Canada. Folks in Canada don't listen to this podcast, so I can make fun of them. Canadian whiskey, specifically Seagram's, Canadian Mist, Lord Calvert, Black Velvet, Rich and Rare, and Canadian Hunter. One guy said anything Canadian is trash, which I don't agree with that, but he did. Another guy said Canadian whiskey started with Seagram 7 as a teenager, never again. Irish whiskey, all right. Proper 12 took heavy fire in this thing, guys. A lot of you said it's only popular because of Conor McGregor, which is probably true. And one person said it wouldn't sell if it came from anyone else. But I got to tell you, I saw something on Proper 12 today. They've sold, I don't know how many million bottles or million cases in the last year. And they're like either second or third behind Jameson now. So, hey, Proper 12, you guys shit on it, but evidently they're doing pretty good. Now, also, you guys called out Tullamore Dew, Jameson Orange, and the classic complaint from you guys was anything not made in Ireland. So I don't even understand that. Which is it? Scotch. Cutty Sark, J&B, Johnny Walker, red, black, blue. It didn't matter what color Johnny was. And teachers. And apparently to some of you, Scotch is just bourbon that's in a bad mood, right? So I don't know. Nobody was a big fan of those Scotches. And probably one of the most mentioned was flavored whiskey. It was like a hate parade of flavored whiskey. And if there was one universal truth in the replies from you guys, it was this. People hate flavored whiskey. Okay. Fireball led the charge. Somebody called it college trauma in a bottle. Jameson Orange. Again, I mentioned Jameson before. Anyway, one person said it tastes like a creamsicle dyed in a bar sink. Okay. Peanut butter whiskey. You gotta love Screwball, right? Well, it made an appearance with one listener saying, if it tastes like dessert, it's not whiskey. Okay. This one kind of blows my mind. Wild turkey peach flavor for my peach cobbler. Oh Lord, it burned, burned, burned. My mouth's on fire throughout the entire pan of peach cobbler with it infused. Don't even know what the hell that means, but I had to include it because it was pretty damn funny. And also nominated in the flavored whiskeys is anything fruity, anything spiced, and anything labeled apple from Jim Beam. Fair statement. The bottom shelf bandits. So you gave no mercy to the well whiskey, guys. McCormick's, you blasted early times. You blasted ancient age. 10 High. One quote on 10 High was, my brain still remembers the flavor 20 years later. Bird Dog, Black Velvet, Military Special. One poor dude wrote, that's what you drink when you're a junior enlisted and full of regret. Okay. American Barrels. Don't even know what the hell that is. Looks cool and apparently tastes like defeat. Big House, Hotel Tango, Old Thompson, Doppelkorn, Doppelganger, Rich and Rare, already mentioned them. Kentucky Gentleman and Rebel Yell. It's not Rebel Yell anymore, guys. It's Rebel, but Rebel and the basic Rebel 100 sucks. But those were some of the ones you guys were not happy about from the bottom shelf. And now these are my favorites. The one-liner Hall of Fame. I want to give some love to some of the straight-up poetic replies you gave to what is the worst whiskey you've ever tasted. And the first answer was the one I had to pay for. The Last Shot. Anything made in the South. I'm not really sure why we have to get all, Mason-Dixon line on things. Whiskey made from cactus berries. I think I know where I went wrong. Yeah, I think so. The kind where the shot glass is empty. All right, that's fair. Another person said, what was the worst whiskey you've ever had? The bottle I finished and woke up in a bush. Well, that could go a couple different ways, but okay. I can smell the nastiness from here. Okay. And this is a good one. They all nasty, but I'll take a shot anyway. Okay, now my personal favorite comment wasn't, and remember, there were over 400 comments on this Facebook post alone. What was your worst whiskey? Quote, after literally downing an unopened fifth of Jack Daniels in about 3 or 4 minutes, no whiskey tastes good, LOL. I almost died that night, but I won a $5 bet. So, honorable mention, you didn't die. Also, you won $5. Good for you. And I've got honorable mention to this next little gem. Quote, well, I have never had a whiskey shot that made me immediately want to yak it up. However, some jagoff brought me a shot that was very hard to keep down, and it had 2 types of whiskey in it. 3 wise men, Jim, Jack, and Jose. Okay, that's 4. And that was awful. Still, Ouza takes the cake as the most evil shot for me. Okay, now I must admit, and this is real talk here, kids, I have no freaking idea what ouzo is. So, I'm not an international man of mystery, although I do travel the world occasionally. I've never been to Greece, and it turns out ouzo is a Greek drink with a strong black licorice flavor made from anise, It starts out clear, but when you add water, it turns cloudy white, like a mood ring that only has one setting, and that's confusion. Anyway, people in Greece usually drink it before a meal, especially, they say, with seafood or little snacks called mezetes. Some people really enjoy the flavor. Others say it tastes like someone melted a black jelly bean in I can't even quote that. Anyway, either way, after a few sips, it kind of just tastes like crap on vacation. I've never had it, but it sounds delightful, doesn't it? So anyway, you guys are absolutely awesome. And I got to say thanks for the great interactions on the socials. Really, this makes it fun, and it helps me keep my finger on the pulse of the whiskey world as well. I got to give a special blind tasting podcast thank you to all the whiskey freaks who participated in this discussion. Honestly, guys, these comments, they belong on t-shirts. So what did we learn today, Jojo? What we learned is that whiskey pain runs deep and that the bottom shelf is filled with ghosts. And if your whiskey comes in a plastic bottle with a hawk on the label, you should probably just, back away slowly. But more importantly, we learned that you whiskey freaks have opinions, and I love that about you. So keep them coming. Maybe we'll revisit the Pours That Haunt Us segment down the road. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll do a blind flight of some of the worst ones. I don't have a lot of that stuff that they consider crap. I actually have good stuff for the most part. But anyway, until then, I'm going to encourage you to drink better, encourage you to laugh louder, and for the love of all things whiskey, stay the hell out of the flavored whiskey aisle. All right, whiskey freaks, let's get to the fun part now, my review. And today I'm cracking open a brand spanking new bottle of Larceny Barrel Proof C924. It's an old, reliable weeder. And here's the thing about weeded bourbons. They've got a reputation, right? People say they're soft, they're smooth, they're kind of polite. Think Maker's Mark, right? Think Weller, basically the bourbon version of like a hug from grandma. But what happens when you leave it non-chill filtered and you crank the proof up to 125? That's right. I'm talking about that Larceny Barrel Proof. And like I said, it's the C924. It's barrel proof, it's weeded, and it's packing heat. At least on paper, it's packing heat. And that raises a question for me. Can a weeded bourbon actually bring the fire? Can it break the mold or that stereotype of a weeder, kind of so to speak? I want to find out if this pour at this wicked high proof point, 125, I think it's 125.1 actually, if it can play nice like a typical weeder or does it have a kick? Now, I've seen the numbers and I've heard the chatter. I'm not an idiot. I'm not a recluse. I consume bourbon and whiskey news and opinions. All right. From a very few select people in the whiskey world. But keep in mind, I'm not immune to the scuttlebutt. Believe me when I say it, though. I'm going to go in fresh today, and I promise I've got no preconceived conditions or notions on myself. I know what I know. I've tasted earlier releases of this Larceny Barrel Proof. This one's fresh. We're going to do it together right here, right now. Me, you, a glass, and a really high proof weeded bourbon. And look, I'm not going to pretend I haven't heard about this one. Like I said, I have. That's why I bought it, because I've heard about it. I picked this up at Sam's Club just a couple weeks ago. Look, don't hate. I paid $53. $53 I picked this up for. No joke. And if you live in my neck of the woods, they still have a bunch of it here at Sam's Club. So I say best run out, check your Sam's Club and see. You might even be able to check it online. Maybe I just lucked out, but if you act fast, maybe you can grab one. Remember, I do things the way I do them here on the podcast because we work too freaking hard for our money to blow it on overpriced whiskey. And if you listen to some of these guys, they're bragging about, yeah, I got 800 bottles here in the bourbon bunker. And, oh, yeah, I bought a couple cases of this $400 bottle just the other day. It was so good, blah, 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 right? Listen, nobody's really got that kind of cash. Okay, maybe they do, but I promise you, they're divorced. Anyway, I review things most of the time that you can find and afford. So this one fits the bill. And that's my logic and my reasoning. I told you I would explain it, and now I have. That's kind of a staple of the program, right? And I hope it's one of the reasons why you listen, because I can sit here and brag about how much Pappy I've got stocked up on last week, and I can even taste it here on the pod. And look, I've got Pappy here in the house, but what the hell's the point of me reviewing it and talking about it here if you can't find it or afford it? It just makes no damn sense. So, back to Larceny Barrel Proof. Here's the scoop, or the skinny, or the DL, or the whatever the hell the kids are saying these days. I'm going to run through it real quick. Larceny Barrel Proof C924. It's the September 2024 release from Heaven Hill. It's their wheated mash bill program. It's bottled at, like I said, 125.1 proof. It's 68% corn, 20% wheat, and 12% malted barley. It's non-chill filtered, that's amazing. And it is barrel proof. It's aged somewhere between 6 to 8 years. Maybe that'll go up. I don't know. But it's officially non-age stated. So the 2024 lineup last year from our good friends at Heaven Hill, they released 3 batches throughout the year. They've been doing this, I think, since 2020. And there's 3 releases every year. And the releases they did in 2024 were A124. And that was 124.2 proof. B524, which means it's the second release, released in May of 2024. Get it? Follow it. 125.4. And this is C, meaning the third and final release of 2024, released in September, meaning 9/24. And it's 125.1. Now, I've also got, I can't see it. I also have a bottle of A124 here at the house, but I'm going to hold my thoughts and ideas on that one until we taste the 924. If I can find that 124 bottle at the end, maybe I'll do a side-by-side, but that remains to be seen if I can find it. So let's crack this puppy open right now and get a pour. Oh, before I forget, the bottle. And this is too good to pass. Oh, shit, I don't have my phone. This is too good to pass up. Got to grab the phone. Okay, I got the phone. So one of the coolest features of C924, of the bottle, it isn't what you actually see on the bottle. It's what you don't see. On this bottle, printed in ultraviolet ink, the label hides the legend of John E. Fitzgerald, and it's only visible under a black light, of which I do not have, so I cannot try that. But if you did have a black light, I'm sure all the rest of you have black lights laying around, right? It's a nod to Fitzgerald's real story as a whiskey-loving treasury agent, a truth that stayed buried for decades. That's from the good folks at Heaven Hill. Now, the new copper-toned label, and I don't like that they call it. Anyway, the label here on the bottle of Larceny Barrel Proof it ties directly into that Seize Tonight campaign they came up with not too long ago, encouraging folks to break routine and embrace spontaneity and pour something bold and all that marketing crap. So those marketing geniuses over there at Heaven Hill, they, I guess they're working overtime. But me, I just want to sip a good whiskey. But hey, to each their own. And bonus, ding, 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 if you scan the back of the bottle, the back of this bottle, it actually, I'm going to grab my phone. You scan the QR code on the back, it takes you to the magical, deep, dark depths of Larceny's newly updated website where they tell you to seize the night. Seize tonight. Seize tonight. I'm going to seize tonight. So anyway, it's very cool. I've never seen anything like that before. They've got, like I said, it's got a QR code kind of hidden on the back of the bottle in the keyhole. If you've seen the bottle before, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so today I'm tasting with my Stubborn German Glencairn. The Stubborn German is a brewery in Waterloo, Illinois, and me and the wife headed down there last weekend, and we grabbed a few pours of, they have fantastic beers that they make in-house, and they have an incredible whiskey selection there. And I enjoyed the Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit, and I think she had their blueberry wheat beer. It was a good time. All right, let me crack this bottle open. Okay. And before I get to tasting, I want to grab my notebook. And I like to make notes and kind of catalog the whiskeys I taste. And that way I can keep track of them. I can refer back to them months or years later. You might want to write down what you ate today and any other things you might feel would impact your tasting experience. But I like, what I do is I write it down in the notebook, and then I actually transpose it into a Word document. And that way I always have a running record of the whiskeys I've tasted, how I felt about them, how I rated them, that type of thing. And it's really interesting to go back months or years later and see how your palate's changed or how your ideas have changed about what whiskeys you do and don't like. It's really kind of fun. It doesn't really require a lot of work. And really, if you have a notebook laying around, they're like 25 cents at Walmart now because the kids are getting ready to go back to school. Grab a notebook. Anyway, so let me nose this thing. This is the Larceny Barrel Proof C924. Wow. Right off the bat, I'm getting this blast of cinnamon and caramel. It's very nice. You can get some dark fruit in here too, maybe like blackberries or like a blackberry jam, if you've ever had that. My mom used to make grape jam. This is not grape, but it's more like a blackberry. Maybe elderberry, if y'all have ever had elderberry before. That's got a little tartness to it, though. This doesn't really have tartness to it. It's very, very interesting. Yeah, there's even some old leather in here. This is well, I can't wait to taste this stuff, guys. Let me just jump right in here. Let me get a sip. So I do that Kentucky chew where you just move it around a little bit in your mouth. I think Booker Noe invented that, right? And that way you can get the liquid all around your taste buds, all inside your mouth. And be careful with that, because that ethanol, I expected ethanol here with the 125.1 proof, and I expected it. I didn't get a lot on the nose, to be fair, but it's here. Now, it's not killing me on my first sip, but I'm not going to lie. This 125 proofer is not shy. So, yeah. Damn. Let me get another sip here. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not trying to give anything away here, guys, but I'm not trying to hide my reaction. Well, I am kind of a little bit here because this has got a rich, caramely, chocolatey, cinnamony, awesomey mouthfeel. It's creamy. Okay, and it's really hot. Okay, it's pretty hot. We're not going to say really hot. Let me get another sip. This is exciting. And I think it's fair to, even if you hate something, I think it's fair to take 3 or 4 sips at least. That was my third sip. And I've got to tell you, this dark chocolate in here, this is amazing. Now, I've mentioned on the pod before, I've talked about some of the chocolates I often pair with certain kinds of whiskeys, certain mash bills, certain proofs. And I get these little chocolates. They're called Meltaways from Baker's Chocolates in Nebraska. They don't pay me. I wish they did, but they don't. And every time we go up there, we have to go get a pound or two of this chocolate. They're wrapped in like a wrapper. I can't even explain, like a foil wrapper, okay? And these things right here, and I grabbed one, would pair perfectly with this Larceny Barrel Proof. Let me get another sip. This is so rich. It's fantastic. The caramel. I'm getting some barrel char in here, which for me is a huge plus. I absolutely adore a note of barrel char in my whiskey. This is big. I'm going to take a 5th sip. All right. So that kind of old leather note I got on the nose, it's here on the finish. And again, the proof point is still strong, guys. I am not going to lie. I'm getting a solid warmth in my chest from this stuff. It drinks like 125 proofer. Now, oh gosh, what? I had Benchmark full proof one time, and it's 125. It drinks like it's 125. This, I know, is not in the same league as Benchmark full proof, but this drinks in a similar fashion to me. And it's at least what you might think for 125 proof. But this chocolatey, leathery, sweet finish is just insane. Now, I'm not trying to drag this out, kids, but I am going to take another sip. Like, okay, sometimes when I taste, think Ancient Age or Devil's River or Jesus, Traveler. It's like work to take another sip. This is not that. Got to add a bit of dusty corn and maybe a little bit of clove in the end here. So many things going on here. Lots going on here for something that's only 6 to 8 years old. Yeah, this is intriguing stuff. You're probably wondering, you probably have it figured out already, right? But you might be wondering, what's the verdict? Well, I'll have the answer right after the money spot. Are you looking to update your bar or man cave with some great photographs or wall art? Head over to Etsy at famousdocs.etsy.com and pick up some fantastic prohibition, bourbon, whiskey, and gangster-related photographs and art. Look, guys, you got to check this stuff out. They've got Al Capone, John Dillinger, Bonnie and Clyde, all kinds of cool photos from Prohibition times, liquor stills, all kinds of really neat stuff. And if you purchase 4 or more items, you'll get 20% off your entire order for a limited time. That's famousdocs.etsy.com. famousdocs.etsy.com. And that link will be in the show notes. So, on the Blind Tasting Podcast, there are 3 verdict options. Are we going to keep it? Are we going to collect it? Or are we going to cull it? Now, to keep it means to proudly display it in your liquor cabinet or bar. This stuff's good for a pour anytime, but there's really no need to stock up on it since you can always get your hands on it. Collect it. Grab another bottle or 2 since you find it so damn delicious, or it really just may not be easy to get your hands on. And finally, cull it. Use it to loosen rusty bolts or sanitize a dirty toilet. In the case of Larceny Barrel Proof C924, I say, collect it. Hell yeah. Why not? It's $53 at Sam's Club. And if you look around, you'll probably find it. There's so many amazing... Let me get another sip here. There's so many amazing tasting notes here. It's got a solid finish. Okay, it's a little hot, but after about the 3rd sip, you don't even notice that. It packs some heat, yeah, but okay, if you're new at this or if you're faint-hearted, maybe add a few drops of water. I wouldn't say avoid it. I would say add a few drops of water to it. I think you'll love it. I mean, if you want to be a wuss, that's okay by me. Okay, I'm just kidding. But seriously, don't pass this one up. And make sure you get a backup bottle too. So that's what I have to say about C924. But let me poke around here real quick. I'm gonna step away just for like 2 or 3 seconds. Let me see if I can find my bottle of A124. I want to do a side-by-side real quick. Hang tight. Got it. All right. Good deal. So I've got the 124, the A124, which means it was the first release last year, released in January. I'm going to pour a little bit of that. And I finished everything I'd poured on the C924, so I am going to put a little bitty splash in there. We can do a little comparison. Okay, I'm not going to eat the chocolate. I do have the chocolate here, though. I was debating whether I was going to eat that on the air. I'm not going to do that. That's kind of rude. Okay, so I'm going to give this 124 a little quick nosing. Okay, well, right away, this one's much fruitier on the nose, honey. It is, yeah, it's fruitier on the nose. Again, it's, I think, 124 point, shit, what is this? I don't have my glasses. It's 124.2 proof. So it's packing some heat as well, but I'm not really getting any ethanol on the nose. So that's interesting. And it like I said, it's much fruitier. Let me take a sip of this 124 real quick. Okay, yeah. All right. The 124 is hotter. And yeah, I know the proof points are almost identical, but it's hotter. It's facts. It's science. It's just hotter. Let me get another sip of the 124. Okay, as far as mouthfeel goes, and it's a little, maybe slightly thinner than the 924, but not much. But I'm not getting that deep chocolate, that chocolatey note that I love. I'm not getting that in this one. It's good. It's great. Listen, I'm glad I bought it. Actually, the bottle is half empty, so I know I must like it. But that being said, it's not as good as the 924. Let me take a sip of the 924. Yeah, I mean, even I'm nosing the 924. It's just got those deeper chocolatey. Oh my God, that. Yeah. Now I wish I had the B524, but alas, I do not. I'd say the C924 is the winner by a hair, maybe a couple hairs, to be honest, a couple clicks over the A124, but I don't have the 524 to compare it. The 924 is just more complex, and that chocolate note in there is so damn good. So, hate to do this to you, whiskey freaks, but you've got some homework. I need to hear from you. I need you to let me know what you think. And I've got a couple questions to ask you. You've been very responsive on the socials. Here we go. So my first question is it value or is it hype? And what I mean is at $53. Now, I know that most of the time you guys are going to find this for $65. Okay. But it can be found for $53 right this minute. I looked like 2 days ago at Sam's Club. It's there. Okay. I don't know why it's still there. I want to know if the 924 is a bargain barrel proof pour. What do you think? Is it a value at 65 or 53? I want to know if you would use it as a mixer or are you going to savor it neat? And my last question for you, your last little bit of homework is if you could only pick one Larceny batch proof for your bar, would it be C924? Drop me a note on Facebook or Instagram. You can even go to YouTube and leave messages there. I check them. I don't check them as often as I need to, but go to YouTube, subscribe to the pod. The more subscribers, the more, it's like a snowball, right? So do that for me. I've got this episode posted out there, so let me know what y'all think. Is it A, B, or C, or is it a previous batch from a different year? I'd really be interested to see what y'all are thinking. As far as C924 goes, like I said, I don't know how many times my wife says I do, it's still available. And if I can bump into it randomly at Sam's Club, you can too. So for $53, you better grab it or grab a couple. And in all honesty, I'd pay $65 for it. I'd probably pay $75 for it too. It's just that good. Last but not least, I got to give a shout out to the farmers, the distillery production guys and gals, the warehouse workers, the bottlers, and the truck drivers. They're really the ones that make it happen, guys. So cheers to all of them. That's all I've got for today, Whiskey Freaks. Thanks for listening to the Blind Tasting Podcast, your #1 attitudinal bourbon destination.